Welcome to Moody's Mixer. Winning with prostate cancer. No fear necessary. All right, how's everyone doing today? It's a beautiful Sunday. I know a lot of you probably watching football in the United States and enjoy your Sunday, and I hope you're having a good time and having a good day. And I'm glad to be back, doing the podcast again, and my health is coming along real well, and I'm feeling good. And kind of just want to give an update. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, after completing all of my tests. I was, under doctor's orders for tests and visits and all that. And, it's been a lot. I've never, been under so much doctor's care in my life. Almost 2 months of appointments and tests and MRIs and biopsies, and I just never been used to that. So that in itself has been kind of a change in my life. I've never had to do that. So what does that really look like? And I remember my dad, when he would have tests, and it'd be a couple of weeks, and he was like, man, I don't never want to have to do that. But as we get older and, we get certain diagnoses, and next thing you know, you're there. But it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's just about information. What information, are we getting, and what do we do with that information? And, what is it telling us where we are in our lives? So, what's going on, and I've had some great results, and I kind of mentioned before, I'm kind of ready to really get in the race. And I've always spoken about, in track and field, how we get our bodies prepared. We have to get in shape to really start competing. And it's been about 14 months, and I've been, as I call in the off season or doing my over distance, getting my body ready to really compete. And one of the things I kind of want to, make sure that everyone understands that, in the Olympics, they're Olympic champions, but they're Olympic champions in different events. You might be a 200 meter or 400 meter, or you might be in fencing or wrestling or boxing, or a marathon runner. But out of all those events, you have a gold medalist, a silver medalist, a bronze medalist, and some who just miss it. But some, no matter what, whether they made it to the finals, they are an Olympian. And you're always an Olympian, whether you win or lose. And you're always an Olympic champion. And some newscaster actually this past Olympics made a comment and said, yeah, he's a past Olympic champion. I said, no. Someone corrected him, no, he's an Olympic champion. And it's just funny how people are, quick or just out of ignorance would take certain titles of things that you've earned from you. And it's kind of a big deal because, you've worked so hard to achieve that. And for someone to say you're past and you always an Olympic champion, you're always a world champion, even though, a new year may come and it's a new champion, a world champion this year, or a new Olympic champion in that same event, but you never lose that. Jesse Owens is always an Olympic champion. Period. And as we deal with our health, we we have to look at it a little different. We all may compete with our health as an event like in the Olympics, but we all have to train a little differently. What do we do different? A 100-meter guy doesn't do the exact same training as a marathon runner, or as a boxer, or as a gymnast, or as a weightlifter. Each event carries its own set of workouts, preparation. But in the end, they are champions, those who won. And what we have to do with our health, and what I'm doing with my health, is figuring out what event am I competing in. What is my health event? I can say, yeah, it's cancer. Okay, that's like saying it's track and field. I can break it down and say, hey, it's prostate cancer. I can say, okay, it's a 400 meters. It's more specific. Because there's different type of cancers. There's different types of illnesses. There are, health issues such as, your heart condition, heart disease. Maybe that's wrestling or something. And if we start breaking down our health and understand that we have to look at it individually and not collectively, we can compete at a higher level and win the event. But if we try to train and do it all the same, we can fall short. And what I can tell you is that, because I've trained with Olympic champions and world champions. So I saw how specific it had to be for that particular event. And even within that particular event, athletes who are in that same event still may train a little differently because their skill set's a little different. So how does that relate to our health? Well, there are a lot of people with prostate cancer, or cancer period, or heart disease, or diabetes. How do we treat those illnesses? We can't all do the same thing. And I'm going to break a few things down today, and I'm going to build on them in the next few weeks. This is the start of season 4 of Winning with Prostate Cancer, No Fear Necessary. But I want to break some things down to kind of get us in the frame of mind that, hey, we can beat this thing, no matter what it is. Or we can, lose weight, or, just get our blood pressure down, whatever we want to work on. And what I've been finding out, through my years of just, talking with people and families, and, even, as lately as this past, year and a half with my own, just the misconception of health that's out there. Because you can't treat all illnesses the same. And what kind of happens when we fall into the protocol of medicine or treatment, we get treated kind of all in the same. And I'm not saying those treatments are inherently bad, but we got to get an understanding for ourselves so we can make those adjustments to have the best result, regardless of the solution we choose. All quarter milers or 800 runners or marathon runners. So, they all train a little differently, even within the same event. So what makes it different when someone has cancer or has prostate cancer? There could be someone with prostate cancer just like me, but their treatment option may be different. Even if we may choose the same kind of path, there may be some nuances that may be a little different. But we don't know that. And doctors don't know that if we don't kind of get engaged and we just kind of leave it all up to them to tell us what we need to do. And so, you heard me speak a while ago about getting your blood panel, getting certain tests, because that's going to tell you what you need to do. I'm just going to kind of, talk about some things that I'm doing, with my juicing. I'm kind of now past the over distance phase. I did all my mileage and I've built my base. Now I'm ready to start fine tuning my workouts. So now I'm doing, specific workouts to work on particular parts of the race. And, there could be another quarter miler who's doing the same thing, but he may have 4 different things that are different than mine because his strengths and weaknesses are different, just like my strengths and weaknesses are different. Alberto Ron-Torino, who I looked up to, who was a double 400, 800 meter runner in the 76 Olympics. No one has done that since. Doubled in the 400 and the 800. Michael Johnson doubled in the 400 and the 200. So he was more a speed quarter miler, as Alberto Ron-Torino was a strength 400 meter guy. So they ran the 400 different, and both of them were Olympic champions. Their workouts were completely different. And so when our health is no different, if we try to just be a protocol list, we can miss a lot of things and not have the best performance or have the best outcomes. So that's why I'm really kind of trying to bring to the forefront, not don't do this and, this treatment is bad for you and all that. I'm not saying that at all, and I want to make sure people understand that. No matter what path you choose, you got to get an understanding on what you need to do, because you got to get involved. And one of the things my doctors have been doing, with me, and I had to learn real quick, when I would go in for my checkups, they started asking me questions, and it was like, well, doc, I thought you knew all that. They said, no, it's your responsibility to know how many milligrams of this and what you're doing and all that, not just for it to be in my record. And a light bulb kind of went off. Is that I got to take control of my health. So I'm really going to break it down, in this season here and get more into the details of specifics of what we need to do. And I kind of started with, hey, especially for men, get your PSA done, and start finding out where you are. Don't be afraid of it. And I'm happy to say that I've gotten several calls and emails and, guys saying, hey, man, thanks. I got my PSA. I went and got checked. Some's come back positive and some come back negative, but they know now. And now the metabolic, panels, your blood, so you can start looking at all your other indicators, because, doctors are only going to kind of do a little checklist. And when you kind of understand, hey, wait a minute, I got to get this fixed so it doesn't lead there. So I just want to make sure, I'm just kind of recapping, because we're going to, break it down over the next few weeks. So, I've talked about the lump in my neck, and I got the MRI back, and it has diminished 60%. And something I've had my whole life. And it started getting bad in my 40s, the last 20 years, it would get the size of a ball in my neck. And it's gone. You don't see it anymore. My blood pressure back, last April of 2020, it got high again. And it's, 115/70, and it's been consistent. My weight now is consistent at 145. And I thought I never could get there. I said, this just don't make sense. But I'm there. So now I'm really ready to fight. And I kind of talked about, a little bit, a couple of weeks ago, now I got to get these enzymes. I'm ready to get these enzymes now to start fighting these cancer cells and having my cells produce at the proper rate and not just, multiplying and, dividing uncontrollable. Because when the cells divide uncontrollable, that's when you get the free radicals. And that's when these cancer cells can attach. But I had to get myself in shape. You really start getting, specific training and specific understanding of what I need to do with my body. And we all need to do that. Whether you have a chronic, diagnosis or not, start understanding what's happening. And we're going to break it down a little bit more, but, things are looking real good for me. I'm happy where I am, and now I'm ready to really start zeroing in on that cancer. I don't have to worry about making sure my blood pressure is ready. I'm not exerting unnecessary energy now. I had to give up running because I need every ounce of energy. I need my enzymes. So one of the things, why do you just juice and eat certain things? Because it's about my digestion system not having to work hard. So for instance, berries are good for you. Strawberries and blueberries and blackberries, that's a good thing to eat. A lot of, antioxidants in there. But they're not good for me because they're bad on the digestive system, which means those enzymes are being used for my digestion. So I'm not eating berries anymore. Avocados. I can't eat pineapples because there are things in pineapples that offset what my body needs to do, from a enzyme. I got to eliminate salt because salt are enzyme inhibitors. So we have to understand. So what happens is people tell you, those are good for you. That is not necessarily a false statement when people tell us that. But it could be bad for us. So if I'm training for the 400 meters, and I'm Alberto Rontorino as opposed to Michael Johnson, to tell them to do one workout, to do the same workout, one could be bad for one and good for the other. But they both training for the same event. So we have to be careful of just taking information without understanding the complete picture that we have. And that's why I'm really breaking down these comprehensive blood panels and getting these results, because we have to be careful when we get information. And it's not always that people are saying something false, but it's not good for us. So when I read the forbidden list, I was surprised about things I cannot eat, because they are good things in a typical diet. But when my body is being used to fight cancer, it's a different event. I need my body to do certain things. So we can go out and Google stuff and it says such and such is good for avocados are good for you. And that is a true statement. But if you don't understand what it does, that berries are good for you. But if you don't understand that berries are hard on the digestive system, that's why when people say, "Oh yeah, I'm juicing," I got the bullet, or I blend all my stuff and I drink it all, and they say, "Yeah, I got the fiber and everything," because we were told, "Hey, fiber's good for you." And inherently, fiber is not the worst thing for you, but fiber is hard on your digestive system. So what happens, my body is working to digest things as opposed to fighting. So you got to know what things you need to train for to get your body ready and to fight. So that's why breaking this thing down is important. And that's what we're going to get into in this season here, more specific about our body makeup. And so it's not that no one is telling us anything bad. It's just that we got to get control ourselves and understand it. And for those who have not been diagnosed with a chronic disease or illness, get on top of it now. So you can get control of it. But just because you read something that something's good for you, you got to pull back the onion. Or as I said, like the Wizard of Oz, you got to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. So everything that's good for you or good for someone else doesn't always translate. And it's not that anyone's trying to hurt you. It's just that it doesn't necessarily compute to what you're doing. So that's why it's kind of important to kind of understand what's going on with our bodies. So, I just want to make sure we kind of have that, because we got to be careful. And I'm just going to kind of take a little break, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to kind of read some things to you so everyone kind of understands, what's going on. So I'm just going to take a little break. I'll be back. And I'm going to read that list to you. Back in here and just kind of get through this list. Okay, so what's on this list? And some of it you probably already know we shouldn't be doing, period. But these are things on my list for what I'm dealing with. Okay, so these are not inherently bad for everyone, but for me. And what I'm saying is we all need to find out individually what works for us. And that's why diets and stuff, we just kind of get a diet book or try to follow a program. But if we don't get into the detail, they don't work. So I'm just going to kind of read some things, of course, like all processed foods, right? That's, lunch meat and meats and, canned tunas and hot dogs and stuff like that. Of course, no alcohol, avocados, no canned foods, sweets, candies, cheese, cucumbers. Cucumbers is a veggie, but it's poorly digested. Because see, what I got to do is save my enzymes, to create these proteins, to store energy, this ATP. We're going to get a little deeper than that into some future shows when we're going to talk about ATP, the cycle of what happens in our bodies. So we have to be careful of what we put into our bodies. But like Epsom salts and stuff, even, those type of things that we may soak in. And I'm going to get into even, my hygiene stuff and things around my house, and I'm having to change what's in my house now. But, no fats and oils, like fluoride. So like fluoride in water and toothpaste and stuff like that. So I got this special toothpaste. I don't, use deodorant anymore. I know y'all said, man, cool, you already stink, but that's all right. Because the deodorant covers your pores. So what sweat does is allows the toxins to release. And I found some good organic ones. But then when I started getting a little deeper, it's like, I don't want any of it. Because I'm blocking the toxins from leaving. So like fluoride in our water. So, when you buy water from these water companies, they say, hey, you want fluoride in it. It's good for A, B, C, D, F, and G. Well, not for me. And I'm going to get into the details as we kind of get into a little bit on the show. Milk. No mushrooms. Because it's not a vegetable, it's a fungus. Nuts. Nuts are high in fats. And it's the wrong configurations of proteins. So I do need some proteins, but nuts is the wrong configurations. Even, they're organic. And I've kind of eaten, a bunch of nuts, especially when I was by myself, because Kim is allergic to nuts, so I can't bring them in the house. But it's the wrong configuration of proteins. So that's tough for me because that was kind of like my other snack I thought I could be able to get away with. But can't do pickles because that's just, cucumbers, bad on the digestants. So orange and lemon rinds, they contain aromatic oils. No salts, all salt substitutes. No soy products. Most spices, high in aromatics. And teas. There are a few teas that allows us, to drink. Now, what kind of happens a little later, and this is a therapy, a part of a therapy that I'm using. I'll break it down a little bit, in the show a little later, and eventually, there are some things you can bring in. Maybe some eggs, some fish, and maybe some meats. And some butter, but that's after you at a certain point. And it's on us individually to understand where we are. Some things that are always forbidden are all aerosols, sprays. That's been a bad thing for a few decades. Depending on how old you are, when they had the aerosol can thing, because what was going to the ozone. But like no new carpeting or chemical cleansers, chlorine bleach, because those things have toxins, and just smelling those things can lead to our bodies. A lot of the cosmetics, ointments and paints and perfumes and pesticides and stuff. So when you get to a certain level as an athlete, and you're talking hundredths of a second or tenths of a second just to get on the medal stand, these little things matter. You hear people missing the Olympic team by a hundredth of a second. Because, if they only take 3. And that fourth, that coming in fourth place, that's the place you don't want to be. And for a lot of athletes, it's a hundredth of a second. And it could just been just a couple of little things that could have made the difference. So that's why we go through these things. Every little things matter. So even in this, I'm trying to, find out what really matters. Because I have to, figure this out. And that's the beauty of this. That's what's fun about this whole thing. It's just being able to kind of, go through this. So the things that I am using right now is, of course, everything is organic. And one of the things is I want as much nutrition in my body. So the reason I'm 145 pounds as opposed to 175 pounds is because my intake is different. My intake is just nutrition.
Connected.
So what happens with our intake with food is we eat a lot because our body needs to try to get the nutrition. And so that's why we have to eat a lot, because how food is prepared and what it is, it takes so much for us to consume. We got the weight and the waste just sits there. So when we juice purely and consume it properly, our body is getting nutrition. And that's why you heard me say I don't get hungry, because I'm juicing, I'm getting all the nutrition. Low temperature when you're cooking your vegetables to maintain, the nutrients. So most vegetables are okay for me to eat except what I read, on the forbidden list. Most fruit. And, people like to say, well, especially when they don't want to understand it. Well, fruit has a bunch of sugar. Yeah, but it's a glucose. And that's what breaks down the ATP. We're going to get into that a little bit later. It ain't the same as refined sugar, the white sugar that's, done over. But we like to say those things to try not to accept the science behind how our body really works. So one of the things with cooking, I got to use all stainless steel, no aluminums, no non-stickware, because that stuff peels. That stuff has toxins in it. So I'm just cooking with, all stainless steel. I cook a soup, that I drink twice a day. And we'll get a little bit more into the detail, but I'm just kind of breaking it down because I want us to understand that things are good and bad. And if you take things just on the surface, we can hurt ourselves. You hear people say you can't read everything on Google and stuff. And that is true, because we have to understand the context. If we get things out of context, we get lost, or we can make mistakes. And what I've been trying to do, and even this helps me, is get my health within my own context. And what I'm trying to do is to help, you out there get your health under control. Get it in the context of where you are to understand. And, it's always going to people to say what's good and bad for you, because maybe they don't want to not or start doing it, which is okay, but it may not be good for you. So it's kind of like, as a CPA, someone comes to me and wanted some tax advice, start asking me questions. I said, I really just can't answer that question, because there are things I kind of need to know that you're not going to tell me, not because you're trying to keep it from me. You don't know that information is important to make a decision. For instance, people say, yeah, you can write your mortgage interest off. Well, mortgage interest has a phase out. If you make so much money, mortgage interest may not be deductible. So just to say mortgage interest is deductible can get you in trouble. I could be talking to a multimillionaire. That's not applicable. So when we give advice, we got to be real careful. And I'm just want to provide information. And I'm hoping, as we go through the season, I want people to participate with me and call in and provide some information to help me. Because I'm walking through this too. I've been learning for 14 months, 15 months, and I'm still learning. This is a process. As a matter of fact, these last few minutes, if you want to call in, you can call in at 404-557-2264, and I'll put you in on the air with me. Call in. If you got my cell number, it's just my cell number. No new number. For those who know me, want to call in, I'll put you on real quick. But it's just about sharing information. So I'm going to kind of really start getting into the detail. I'm gonna have my blood work up. I'm gonna have some of my MRI results up, and so you can really see it. And so I'm going to talk about mine, so when you read yours, you might have a better understanding. I'm not going to tell you what yours is saying. I'm not qualified to do that. It's going to people saying, you're not a doctor, you can't say that. Yeah, that's true. Even as a CPA, someone asks me some type of legal question, I can't answer it, even though I may know the answer. I'm not qualified to do that. I don't have that license. There are people who, you don't have to have a license to do taxes, but you have to have a license to render an opinion on financial statements or even a review. See, only CPAs can audit financial statements. Now, there could be a non-CPA who can do the majority of the work, or maybe almost do all of it. They just can't sign their name. But the reason the license is important, because it shows the minimum competency that we're qualified to render that opinion. So I just want to make sure people understand, because, people always want to disqualify you. That you ain't qualified to do A, B, C, D, F, and G. That may be true to sign a name. But you can be qualified to render your opinion on yourself or what you're going through and your understanding and relay information. And if anybody want to come on that has more qualifications than I do, please come in and help. I'm all ears. But we're always being disqualified. And sometimes when we go into that doctor's office, they want to tell us, well, I'm the doctor. And you may have some questions. And you have some concerns. And as soon as they say that, we kind of clam up. Like, I didn't go to medical school. I didn't even take biology. And we think we're not qualified to understand what's going on. And that's just not true. Don't get scared of taking your health into your own hands. So we're going to kind of start breaking this up on these next, few episodes. And I'm going to start getting some bite-sized pieces. And I want us to have the confidence to take our health under control and not be afraid and ask the questions. I encourage my clients to ask me questions, to challenge what I'm saying, because I want them to understand it. Because individual tax clients during the year, if they only come see me once a year, and I encourage them to come see me in October, November, so we can tax plan, so we can do some things before January 1. Because once January 1 rolls around, there's some things we can't do because we allowed that year to expire. But it's on you to call. It's on you to take control. And when we sit down, Corey, this is what I'm doing. This is what are you thinking? Well, Corey, you said this last year. Why is it different now? Okay, well, the tax law changed. Now it's a phase-out period. Because mortgage interest didn't always have a phase-out period. So, and there's some other things that sometimes I miss it. You know, you can tell folks, hey, you can write off, your gains and losses from your sales in stocks and bonds. Well, hey, they put a limit on that to $3,000 a year. You have to carry it over. Someone may be thinking, hey, man, I'm going to take this $10,000 loss this year. But you might be limited to $3,000. All I'm saying is, because you're not a CPA or a tax preparer, doesn't mean you don't bring your questions and get an understanding to those who are the professional. And you don't do your own research. I have clients all the time bring me stuff to say, hold on, you know what? Let me look into this. But sometimes our professionals don't want to do that because they want to lead us down a particular road. So get control of it. Understand what your role is. And it's up to you to do what you're supposed to do with your health. So I want to thank you, you guys, for kind of checking in with me because I didn't know if I was going to do this today. I was telling you I was going out to the wilderness, and actually I'm kind of here now, and it's been a heck of a journey. I can tell you that. So this is kind of the start of it. And I'm really looking forward to it. And this is why this is the new season. And we're gonna break down, all these different things. We're gonna break it down so we understand what we have to do. And, I just really appreciate, people just checking in and showing concern about what's going on, with my life and taking their own life and health, under some type of advisement, because it's important. And I see now that I have some technical difficulties here because things are not coming in like they should, and I'm trying to fix it. And I think I have. There we go. I want to leave you with a smooth transition. But I want to thank you for checking in with Winning with Prostate Cancer, No Fear Necessary. And I'm trying to be here every Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want you to check out my podcast at CoreyMoody.podbean.com. Go to that webpage, because I have a bunch of links there. I do a financial series on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that is a webinar. So it's interactive, just like I want this to be interactive also. But we go through a lot of things. So check out my Facebook page, Corey D. Moody. Corey Moody CPA on Instagram. So I'm trying to bring all this stuff together so you can find me and ask questions. I'm happy to say I'm in 22 different countries now. And the call is the support, because I need you guys to import some knowledge and stuff into me, because this is a fight. I'm in this race, and it's fun now. And I just want to help anyone that's willing to listen and want the help, and not to be afraid to ask questions, and not to be afraid to, talk to your professionals. And if they intimidate you, find someone else that's willing to open up and teach you about what's going on. But my mind and my brain, my spirit, is just changing. So again, I want to thank you for listening to Winning with Prostate Cancer, No Fear Necessary. Again, catch me on Wednesday with the Renaissance Fellowship with E. Dono Cheney. And have a good weekend. And I appreciate you checking in with me. And I hope you have a great rest of the weekend or what's left of it. And enjoy.